Assalamu alaikum and greetings. My name is Shwa Khan Arshad and I am the host and founder of a podcast called Light Up with Shwa. Today is a very special day for me and for my podcast. I have somebody that I have been following and listening to. So I welcome Brother Ehsan today to Light Up with Shwa podcast. I'm really honored and very grateful for your time and your energy and your presence.
Thank you for having me, Shoa. Peace be with you. Salam alaikum to you and to your audience.
Salam. Thank you.
And it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So let's begin. Who are
Bismillah.
you and what do you do?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Every
As
day,
briefly as you can do.
every day I have to ask myself that question, to be honest. And I'm not
Yes.
joking. I literally ask myself this question almost every day because who we are, we're not static. But anyway,
Yes, true.
just to help me get focused in terms of what I'm trying to do, and this is always an evolutionary process, right? I always check back and look at myself and look, can I do something, or should I be doing something differently or better? Is there something I need to change, and so on. But
Hmm.
in a nutshell, what I have come to do is what I would describe now at this point is offer essentially faith-based life coaching. This is now, we live in a world where we don't have a lot of the traditional sources of support and guidance that we used to growing up in a much simpler world. And the world is changing so fast. And there are new problems and new challenges continually arising. And especially for those who are seeking to somehow integrate traditional faith and religion, Islam, right, with their lives in the modern world. So a lot of what I do now, I suppose, can be described as providing guidance and mentorship in doing that, and being able to balance our lives and do it in a way that is ultimately fulfilling a greater purpose, right? We're not just trying to solve practical problems, but to do so in a way that serves our spiritual growth and ideally, inshallah, with God's grace, our connection and our relationship with our Creator.
Thank you for that. So would you say your full name and how you pronounce it? I
Sure,
wasn't
yeah.
sure. Emil, is that
So that's my
what is that?
my yeah, Emil is my actual legal name, technical legal name.
Okay.
And it's an
Yeah.
anglicized version or of my original Pashto name, which is Emal. So
Oh,
it just
okay.
became Emil when I came to the US. That's how they spelled it, and that's how it's been since then.
Mhm.
And Alexander is my middle name, and it is actually, in fact, my middle name. Interestingly, my mother somehow, in some sort of act of premonition or insight or whatever, actually gave me sort of a Europe, instead of saying the traditional form of Sikandar or Iskandar, she said Alex.
Oh,
She had it as Alexander,
well.
and Torabi is my last name. Ihsan is the name that was given to me by my spiritual sheikh, my teacher,
Oh,
when I
okay,
first met
okay,
him.
okay, okay.
And that is what I tend to go by whenever possible, simply
Yeah, that's how
because,
I learned about you. Ehsan Alexander.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I've kind of just taken those to simplify it, and I think that they symbolize kind of me as an individual and many people as well who I probably end up communicating with, which are
Mhm.
people who are living in these two different worlds, the East and the West, right?
Yes.
And so that's why I kind of just decided to just use those two. And when I first, I went through this phase when I was quite young, I actually kind of rejected the name Alexander. I tried to drop it from my name because it was too, Western for me. I kind of went through this little phase of,
Mm.
maybe let's say rediscovering my roots. And I was, kind of disenchanted with a lot of the hypocrisy of the modern world and, what I was experiencing, here in the West. But I've come to embrace it, right? I've come to embrace it as part of my fate and my destiny. It reminds me of Rumi, right? I'm not of the East or of the West.
Mm.
In seeking to identify ourselves, I've kind of accepted that, there is no real identity. It's just who we are and what we can do in this moment that matters to the
It's
best of our
powerful.
abilities.
It's a powerful name.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
All right. So what is Torabi then? Last name is Torabi?
Yeah, Turabi, it means from the earth, of the earth, right? From Turab,
Yes.
Minal Turab.
So
So
that
it's
would be the fourth last name?
Well, that's my actual last name, technically my
Actual
last
last name.
name.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my
Emil.
last name.
Okay.
And that's the name of my father and
Okay.
grandparents. And it comes from actually Arabic roots. My great grandfather, or my great great grandfather, was Arab, and they had immigrated to Afghanistan.
Oh,
So yeah,
nice.
so
Oh.
technically, actually, we're still known as Arabs because I think the way that it works is that the identity or the identity in terms of race or ethnicity is passed down through the father.
Mhm.
So technically, in Afghanistan, I would be considered an Arab,
Wow, interesting.
but I was born there. Yeah.
There's a lot in your name, and that means that is you. That's wonderful. That's very
Well,
good.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
My hope is to be able to live up to some of it.
Okay. Let's go to what is BorderPoint, if you would like to tell our audience. And is that where you were mentioning that you coach, teach, help?
Sure. I mean, over the years, I've been doing this now. I've been creating content online for, over 10 years, almost maybe
Mm.
more than that, almost 14 years at this point.
Okay.
And over those years, I ended up, kind of doing a lot of different things. I created a lot of numerous different e-courses, like digital online courses. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the Islamic Meditation Program was probably the first ever e-course ever created
Mm,
for within the Muslim market,
okay.
as far as I have seen and know. And to this date, it's probably one of the only meditation-based courses within the Muslim market. There may be others at this point, I'm not sure, but this was certainly the first. And I created a number of other courses as well. Again, trying to address a Western audience or Muslims that are Western educated,
Mm,
primarily because that's where that's my reality. That's where,
true.
where I have had to deal with a lot of these issues and questions and so on. Also done podcasting, and once I started this work online, ended up slowly getting into coaching as well because of just simply out of as a result of the demand and people requesting and requiring that. So I ended up doing a lot of different projects, and what BorderPoint is just a platform now in which I've tried to consolidate everything. So I've got resources there in terms of my courses that I offer. A lot of my YouTube content is localized, is posted there as well. All of my courses are accessible there as well as coaching. So it's basically, my platform and my best attempt at being able to consolidate, all of my work into one site just so it's manageable.
Mm. So anybody who wants to connect can go to the BorderPoint website and connect with you for the courses or for coaching or however.
Yeah, I would say borderpoint.com would be the best place to
Okay.
just to connect with myself, with me and my work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the podcast that you do, I have seen you interviewing people, and I haven't finished it, but you just recently did um, person in South Africa.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
what's his name?
Sheikh Fadullah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes. That was
Yeah, that
very
was the
nice.
yeah, alhamdulillah, that was a recent episode that I was finally
Yes.
able to publish. And the point of the podcast also, again, was to reintroduce Islamic spirituality. So a lot of the work that I do is about spirituality, and what I mean by that is
Yeah.
um, the inner aspect or the inner dimension, or really the essence and the soul of Islam. It just because there's no shortage of emphasis or instruction or information when it comes to the body of Islam, the forms, the rituals, the rules, the regulations, the do's, the don'ts, the practices, right? Anybody asks about Islam, and oh, this is Islam. You pray, you fast, but it's much more than that. Islam is way more than that, and it's a great disservice when the depth of Islam is not emphasized. Right? The depth of religion is not typically emphasized, unfortunately, when it's taught or shared with people. And so people really oftentimes don't realize how deep the religion goes. The faith, Islam, is a path of spiritual development, of transcendence, of human evolution, of awakening of the heart and the soul and of consciousness. It's profound and it's deep. And so a lot of the work that I do, including the podcast, is about trying to point back to that.
Hmm.
Right? The forms of the religion are there to hold it together, right? To encompass the religion, to give it form, to give it expression in the world. But if it lacks what's within, if it lacks the essence, which is sincerity, excellence, beauty, purity, the forms have little real value. And so you have to have both. And this has been a central theme with a lot of my work. Also, this term border point, it signifies an intersection, a meeting point. Right? We can talk a lot about what that idea is, but simply, it's where we are supposed to meet between the outer and the inner, between the temporal and the eternal, between the form and the spirit. Right? Man, the creation of human beings, of creation and the creator. Like the human being has the ability to exist at the intersection, at the meeting point of all of these polar opposite realities.
Mm.
And it's unique to human beings that we can have that because only the human being can truly know his or her creator. And unless we take that internal journey and really seek to develop ourselves, it would be important to at some point describe maybe in more detail what that means. But unless we take the opportunity to develop ourselves and to purify ourselves spiritually, we're just going through motions. And the religion will serve a purpose, but only a fraction of its potential.
So, all what you said, how can we teach this?
Yeah, and so the first thing is that if we are going to be able to, okay, when it comes to children, you can't
Yes,
give them something you don't have. Everybody
exactly.
wants good for their children, but if we don't have it, we cannot give it.
Yeah.
Not most of the time, unless Allah chooses them and it's a special exception, that's different. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said that paradise is at the foot of the mother. And in fact, at the feet of both parents, but he emphasized the role of the mother when it comes to raising a child. As I said earlier, Islam, right, our lives, we as human beings, must be in a state of continual evolution. The world is continually changing. We don't have the luxury of being complacent. So the challenges and the reality that our children now may be living in is very different than the reality that we grew up in.
True.
But if we are active, if we're not taking life just for granted and just kind of coasting through life, and our main focus is just making money and eating and drinking and all of that, entertainment and just distraction, if we realize that we should be students of life, we will have a strong understanding of the reality today as it manifests. And so religion has to address those very real needs. Your children, my children, let's say the youth in general today, they have things that have to be dealt with. This world is full of problems, all kinds of problems, social problems, psychological problems, economic problems, spiritual problems. And we have to as well always be capable of addressing those problems through the faith. So religion has to continually be a process of continual learning and evolution.
Yeah.
That's why, for example, there's this idea that every century requires someone to come and revive the religion, to make it current, to make it relevant. It's not the religion is changing,
Yep.
but they're able to draw deeper into the well of faith in religion to bring out solutions to the problems that are currently taking place in the world.
Making it relevant, that is very
Absolutely.
important. I think that's one of
Absolutely.
the important words.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And being able to communicate that in a way that
Yeah.
that is people can hear and understand. Yeah, that's actually a real problem. I see it all around me. Right? I do see all my peers slipping and succumbing to aimlessness and purposelessness and drugs and all kinds of other social problems. I like it's obvious that they're slipping into depression. I mean, now look, most children
Yes.
nowadays are actually being medicated.
Yes.
A large percentage of children are being medicated. And I remember in the past, when I was growing up, you almost never heard of a child committing suicide. Now it's becoming, sadly, tragically, unfortunately, a greater problem, a more common problem. And that's a failure on the part of society at large, but really it's a failure on the part of us.
Adults in general, I think I would
Adults in
say.
general, but
Yeah.
especially Muslims.
Muslims and
We have
parents. I
to
think we are not equipped. We are not equipping ourselves.
we need to get
Yep.
equipped. We don't
Yep.
have the luxury. Why are we here?
Yep.
Why are we alive?
Yep.
We're not here to just live in this world. We're here to constantly be learning and growing. The Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, he said, never stop learning. Be a learner from the cradle to the grave.
Yeah.
Knowledge is sacred in Islam. Continual learning. The moment we stop learning, we start dying. If we're not learning, we are regressing and we're becoming irrelevant. So there shouldn't be any surprise then if we're not able to effectively address the problems that the world currently is dealing with or facing, and that includes, of course, our children. So, I mean, a big part of it, right, is this approach to religion that is never static. It's never complacent. It's constantly being on the cutting edge, on the leading edge of what's happening. We have to be. We have to be able to address what is currently happening in the world and have solutions and answers and guidance within that.
This journey that you got onto, was there a particular moment that you thought that this is what you need to do, or were you always in this state that you felt that there was something missing in our communities, and that's why you started this platform and your journey?